So as we end 2023 and go into 2024, I think the one thing people wonder about is how is AEW going to bounce back in 2024? Like, is 2024 the 5-year anniversary of their existence? Is that going to be the year that AEW finally, gets back on its feet? Is that going to be the year that AEW finally, once again, proves that they are indeed the alternative to WWE? Well, there are a few factors that have to come into play. One is what happens at World's End, the last pay-per-view of the year for AEW, and the last pay-per-view, as far as we know, for any major wrestling promotion into the new year. Because later on that week, if I'm right about what I'm figuring, later on that week, New Japan will have, I think, night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom. Their night 2 will be the next night, and then I think night 3, if they do a night 3, will be a few weeks later. But anyway, the way AEW asserts itself for 2024, like I said, it all depends basically, on what happens at the World's End pay-per-view. Because what happens there will pretty much set the standard, in my opinion. It will set the standard as to how they, run throughout 2024. Like, it'll basically give us an idea of whether or not 2024 is going to be their year, despite the fact that they could end up losing some names to free agency and potentially to places like WWE and TNA, maybe even New Japan. That's where basically 2024, in my opinion, is going to be viewed as either their year or another year of struggling. Because if you're going into your 5th anniversary, which basically is saying to people, hey, we've been around for half a decade now, despite what people may think of us, then you're going to want to go into that 5th anniversary on a strong note. And World's End has a lot of opportunity for them to do that. One of the main storylines going into that is the whole MJF, who's behind the devil mask, situation. That's one of the big things playing out right now that people enjoy. People are actually invested in when it comes to, AEW. Who is behind that mask? Who is tormenting MJF and, those, associated with him? Who's basically, trying to manipulate him, outsmart him, or is it MJF himself? Is it MJF that's been behind this whole thing, manipulating all those that he associates with, as well as the fans, that's in the end proving he's just, an overall prick that doesn't really care about anybody but himself? Is that what we're going to find out? We don't know. We don't know what we're going to find out going into the pay-per-view. That's the one thing we don't know about until then. Is it Adam Cole? We don't know. Is it somebody that we're not seeing? Is it Jack Perry? We don't know. A lot of these things are getting people wondering and got people invested in the storyline. The other storyline people are invested in is Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge, and Christian Cage. Like, what's going to happen there? We know that Adam Copeland, obviously, based on what we saw 2 weeks ago, knows Christian better than anybody else. He knows him. He knows him better than anybody else. So you have to wonder if, this Wednesday at Winter is Coming, if Adam Copeland's going to reveal the fact that, yeah, I knew you were going to have a plan. I knew you were going to have something up your sleeve. I just didn't know what it was. And does he reveal that, hey, I already went to Tony Khan and ensured we have another matchup, against each other at World's End, maybe inside a steel cage? We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen there. But we know they're going to have some kind of interaction at that pay-per-view, whether it's in a one-on-one match, whether it's in a multi-man tag. They're going to have an interaction. And the question is going to be, what happens there that leads us into 2024, to keep our our investment, to keep us interested and intrigued, as to, what occurs. That's the question. Is it going to, is something going to happen, at World's End, between now and World's End, that's going to keep us invested going into next year? You know, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions, you know, that need to be answered. I mean, you're building something apparently with Riho and Timeless Tony Storm, but is that something that's going to be built upon more so going into 2024? Will we see some debuts at World's End? Will Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler, show up? Will Mercedes Moné show up? You see, these are things that people are wondering, and if any of those happen, if any debuts happen at World's End in a couple of weeks, you know, how are you going to utilize those debuts to build into 2024? You know, who are you going to choose out of your current roster, you know, that you have, as well as, you know, future members, future roster members, I should say, that are coming in, like the free agents that I mentioned. You know, how are you going to utilize them? You know, who out of those from the current roster and the future members of that roster you have, you know, who are you going to try to build into, let's say, your next Cody Rhodes? Who are you going to try to build into your next CM Punk? You know, who are you going to build to basically take the place of Sting when Sting, you know, rides off into the sunset at Revolution? He's like, you know, these are things, you know, that need to be focused on and answered as we go into 2024. And World's End, in my opinion, is the best opportunity for them to do it in. You know, World's End is the best opportunity for them to do it in. It's just up to Tony Khan and his team to make that happen. That's what you need to do. Or that's what needs to be done, I should say. They need to make that happen. You know, they need to make that happen. I mean, you got this Continental Classic that's going to conclude at World's End. It's going to unite 3 championships into one, potentially, as far as we know. You know, as far as we know, it's going to reunite 3 championships into one. The question is, are you going to give this Continental Classic, as predictably as it is, to Bryan Danielson? Or are you going to give it to Swerve Strickland? Or are you going to give it to somebody we don't know? We don't see coming. That's the question. And are you going to build upon, you know, Bryan Danielson potentially becoming, you know, a heel? Maybe you incorporate, you know, his backstage power of, you know, issuing fines and saying, hey, you're going to be fined this, you're going to be fined that. Will you, you know, incorporate that? You know, these, again, are a lot of questions. These are a lot of questions, you know, fans, you know, probably want to have answered and hope to have answered as we go into World's End, at World's End, and after World's End. That is going to be, you know, these are questions they want to see, get some resolution or get some clue as to, okay, how are you going to build upon it going into 2024? Are you going to build upon it, you know, in 2024 to a point that's going to get people invested? You know, are you going to build upon it in 2024 to where people are going to want to pack out, you know, the venues you go in to see how things play out? You see, that's my question. That's what I would want to know. You know, and speaking of the venues, you know, will 2024 be the year after World's End that they start realizing, hey, we can't book these huge venues like we used to. We're going to have to start out small and then build ourselves back up, hoping that maybe as time goes on, we'll get bigger crowds and we'll be able to get bigger arenas. We'll have to see. You know, we'll have to see and everything. You know, and it looks at, hold on for a sec. Almost saw an opening touchdown there by McCaffrey. Sorry, I'm watching the game too here, 49ers and Seahawks. But like I said, you know, is this going to be the year they have to, you know, realize after World's End, okay, we can book these big arenas, these venues, you know, for our pay-per-views and everything, but we're going to have to look at the smaller venues for like Dynamite and Collision and Rampage. Like I said, you know, are they going to have to start doing that? Because I think if they decide to go the smaller route, or at least reconfigure the smaller arenas to be set up for, okay, this and that, all the arenas they want, the venues they want to be set up for this and that, you know, they're going to have to basically make sure that they build themselves back up. They basically get themselves, you know, to a point, you know, they get themselves to a point here that they take their time. They take their time with all that. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they do. But again, to me, World's End is going to be, the event that basically gives us a clue. It gives us, an idea of, what happened. Of what's the next step. Of how they're going to build upon certain things going into 2024. Because again, that's a 5-year anniversary, and I don't think they want to basically start the 5-year anniversary on a low note. They're going to want to begin it on a high note, and just build from that. So to me, they got a lot of opportunities in front of them. They got a lot of opportunities in front of them as we speak. To get to that point. To get to that point to build upon. To get to that point to build upon and get a lot of momentum in the 5-year anniversary. That's what I believe. And all those opportunities are presented to them at World's End. Will they take advantage of that? I don't know. We'll have to see. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. And I do apologize. I am a little distracted watching the 49ers and the Seahawks right now. But let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you think of, AEW and, what World's End will help them do building into the 5-year anniversary in 2024. Let me know in the comments as well as the live chat during the premiere. Do you agree with some of the things I said? That they have all these opportunities presented to them, storyline-wise and all that, as well as other things that they could build upon coming out of World's End. Let me know down below in the comments as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Love to hear from each and every one of you. And until then, I'm going to go and enjoy the game right now. And I am out.